the governor is setting a mark. We got to test and contact trace everyone before we open up the economy. They're not doing that because they believe that's going to work. Are you following what I'm saying? They're doing that because they want to set an insurmountable obstacle, knowing Trump can't meet it, as an excuse to keep their economy shut, to leverage more money from Trump, from the federal government, to bail out their profligate spending. There it is in a nutshell right there. It's our money holding hostage the federal government, which is us, to bail out states, which is us, with money us don't have at the states or the federal government, is money fairy absurdity of the umpteenth degree. Now, to put a little meat on the bone, one of the finer articles I saw, which is a must read for you, please check it out. Be at the show notes today, bongino.com/newsletter. If you want to subscribe to our show notes, I will email you these every day. 3 reasons why states shouldn't get a congressional bailout. Rachel Gressler, The Daily Signal. This article's worth your time. Before we even get to the 3 can I just give you a moral or ethical reason why we shouldn't do this? Folks, we are a federalist system. We have a federal government, state governments, local governments, municipalities. There's a hierarchy here. There's separation of powers, obviously vertical and horizontal separation of powers within and among these branches. But can you explain to me morally or ethically, I'm not kidding, why if you decided to be a public servant in Florida, where you may have taken a lesser salary because you wanted to move to Florida, you like the weather, you like the cost of living, you like the freedom, whatever it may be, where I live. I'm using Florida because I live here. Can you explain to me why a public servant in Florida, where Florida is far more responsible with their state budget, not perfect, but doing far better with pensions and things like this, why we should bail out a state like New York, which already spent your pension money if you're a public servant, wasted it on all kinds of Green New Deal nonsense, Bill de Blasio nonsense, Cuomo nonsense, why that Florida American citizen should bail out that citizen in New York who's working for that government that didn't take care of them. How does that make sense? Do you understand there is no government surplus fund? Everything we are giving to the states is just American citizens giving to other American citizens money. American citizens are borrowing from other American citizens, pretending they're giving other American citizens money. There's no money. There's none. I'm sorry to be Debbie or Danny Downer today, but there's no money. None. The government is $24 trillion in debt. State governments have made promises they can't meet. That is not the fault of the citizens of Florida or Texas or other states which have not spent their states into oblivion. I am genuinely sorry to have to break the bad news. I get it. There's a lot of groups out there really interested in what we have to say on the show. Whenever I mention Social Security's broke, I get tons of emails every time. I'm not going to stop talking about it because it's true. It's like us not talking about the Wuhan virus in January because, you know what, forget, let's not talk about it, it'll just go away. It's not going to go away. We can fix it. I hopefully want to get to some optimistic news today, a couple Wall Street Journal stories. It is fixable, but pretending it's not there and say, well, I worked for that money. I did too. I was a police officer. I was an agent. I did too. I get it. I get it. Listen to me. I get it. I totally understand. You did a hard job for little money based on promises made to you. People voted. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Politicians voted into office, betrayed you. That's a problem that we have to fix. We have to clean up their mess. But that problem will not be solved by them betraying you again and saying, oh no, we'll just borrow it from Florida. Florida doesn't have it either. Let's put some meat on the bone here. Screenshot 1, reason not to bail out the states. The federal government's already directly provided money to the states. Quote, Daily Signal, $150 billion in direct grants for COVID-19 costs, $500 billion in short-term loans to municipal governments, $35 billion in loan default forgiveness, $45 billion in FEMA funds, $30 billion for schools, $34 billion for mass transit. Keep in mind, this is all paper money. It's all money fair money. The government doesn't have that. There's no surplus. The government's just borrowing that from us. You're talking about nearly $1 trillion in state funding. There's no more. There's no more. I'm sorry, they've already given you too much to the states. That's easy for you to say, Dan. You live in Florida. No, it's not easy for me to say. The federal government taking money from me and others in Florida and Texas and states that didn't already gave the states money. States that were in the red, who couldn't handle their own budgets. Reason number 2, we shouldn't be bailing out the states. They can't manage their money now, ladies and gentlemen. Quote, the Daily Signal, the money would reward decades of reckless mismanagement, including bailing out unfunded pensions. COVID-19 measures have been in place now for about 5 weeks, but states' unfunded pension systems, the driving force behind their fiscal woes, are closer to 5 decades in the making. State and local governments have promised $5 trillion more in pension and post-employment benefits than they've set aside to pay. I don't want to break the bad news. I understand. I am with you. It is not your fault. You took a lower salary to work for the state government. In many cases, some, not all, some are getting paid higher, especially in the federal government where there's a lot of data on that. But many took lower salaries in exchange for the promise of these pensions that were broken. They were broken. I'm not callous. I'm not immune to that. I know what you're feeling. I did not grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. Any allegations otherwise are utterly absurd from people totally unfamiliar with my backstory. But I'm a problem solver, and we have a problem caused by politicians. You've got to start voting in different people that stop betraying you. They're stealing your money. It's like being in a boxing ring and a guy is punching the snot out of you and you're like, please stop, that really hurts. It's not helping. There's a problem to be solved. Punch, face, hurt, put your hands up. Duck. Slide. Use your footwork. We have no choice. These are really bad people that screwed you over. We can't bail them out. We don't have the money to bail them out. They mismanaged these places for years. There has to be a political price to pay. And if there's not, and 51% of the people vote for continued mismanagement, then ladies and gentlemen, it's a constitutional republic. And sadly, 49% of the people have to pay the price. We may have to do it in Florida. Who knows? It doesn't mean there's going to be a Republican governor down here forever. I hope there is. Finally, third reason. Ladies and gentlemen, the federal government just doesn't have the money. They don't have the money. We can't bail out the states. If Congress were to fulfill Illinois alone's request and provide the same amount on a per capita basis to the rest of the states, think about it. The price tag would top another $1 trillion. With New York getting $61 billion, Texas $92 billion, and California $125 billion. There's no money. There's no money. There is no money. Zero. There's no money. There's negative money. The federal government is in trillions of dollars of debt this year. There's no money. They're only borrowing this from you to give it back to you, to give it to someone else. They're borrowing money from you in Florida to go give to someone in New York who's going to borrow it from someone else to give it to someone else in New York. There's no money. This is insanity. It is immoral, unethical, red ink, money fairy nonsense. If every politician had to take an Econ 101 class, there'd be no politicians left.
You just heard The Dan Bongino Show. You can also get Dan's podcasts on iTunes or SoundCloud. And follow Dan on Twitter 24/7 @DBongino.